the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Thursday, August 21. I hope everybody's having a fantastic week. And yes, we are live from Lisbon, and so thanks for joining me. All right, maybe let's just jump in. Let's start off with Gen Z. I guess I got real problems with Gen Z, or they seem to have real problems with me. I've been the comment sections on both my discussion about Mamdani's complaints about capitalism and about housing and everything else, and the comment section about yesterday's show where we had a right-wing MAGA nutcase also complain about life today. And I said some things about Gen Z that were unacceptable to the Gen Zers. I said that they can be successful, that they are not poor, that they have their unemployment rate. Well, I didn't say this, but it's true. The unemployment rate is lower at this age than any other generation. I said all these positive things about Gen Z's potential in life, and people flipped out. I mean, they all want to tell me it's not true. They are poor. They can't find jobs. There are no jobs. They're going to lose a lot of jobs. They are losing jobs. They can't buy a home. Life just sucks for Gen Z. And it's, and there's some truth to this. I think that's absolutely right. I think there's truth to all the people complaining about Gen Z, because they are maybe the most pessimistic of all generations. I don't know, but it seems like that way. They've grown up in a world, of being told from when they were very little that the world is going to end, that we're destroying the planet, that things are horrible, that whether it's from the left they get climate change, or from the right they get carnage in the streets of America. They've been told, for the last 10 years, that they won't find a job, that there are no jobs, that AI is going to take all the jobs, that generally everything sucks. And certainly everything in the Western civilization sucks. And it might be true. I haven't seen any stats on this, that they are the most pessimistic of all generations, the most depressed of all generations. And maybe they're depressed not because they've got iPhones, as some people claim. Maybe they're depressed because of what their teachers teach them. Maybe they're depressed because they've been told that they're entering a world that is antagonistic to their interests and that they have no chance of success. Maybe they're depressed because they've been told that reason is impotent and that they should just go by their emotions, and when they try that, they fail. But here's some reality, facts, numbers. I don't know, numbers. In a paper published last year that looked at Americans' household income by generation, after you account for taxes, government transfers, and inflation, millennials were somewhat better off than Gen X. Those are born between 65 and 80 in 1980. So I'm not Gen X. Some of you might be Gen X. Most of you, I think, are millennials. Anyway, millennials were better off at Gen X when they were at the same age. So millennials better off than Gen X. It turns out that Gen X would have been better off than boomers, my generation, at the same age. And it turns out that boomers were quite a bit better off than the silent generation. Silent generation is considered 1928 to 1945. So if you look at age 20-something, 21, 22, but really from age 15, millennials are better off than Gen Xers. Gen Xers better off than boomers. Boomers are better off than millennials. But you know who outshines them all? who's better off than all of them? Gen Z. In every age group, now there are only a few age groups because Gen Z are so young, a Gen Z outperforms the other generations. A typical 25-year-old Gen Zer has this is as of last year, has an annual household income of over $40,000, more than 50% above baby boomers at the same age. So you guys are you're twice as rich as I was when I was age 20. Actually, you're much more than 20. $40,000. If I made $10,000 when I was 20, I was getting a salary from the military. I didn't make $40,000 until I was in my 30s. Anyway, it's not about me, but these are averages. These are median. They're not even averages. They're medians. So 50% or below, 50% or under. And this is not just true of the United States. This is a pretty global phenomenon. Young people are fairly wealthy in relative to their age, relative to other generations. This was true of French people aged 16 to 24. This is true of Croatians and Slovenians and people all over the world. Now, Gen Zs are going to protest, right, as they do all the time. Yes, they have a higher income, but it's a mirage. Because we're not taking into account exploding cost of college and housing, right? These are things that are much more expensive. And it's true. Global house prices are near all-time highs. And graduates have more debt than they've ever had before. But Gen Zs are doing fine. And if you're not, by the way, then you need to examine your own situations. And I know everybody has friends that are not doing okay. Well, okay, but the reality is that overall, Gen Zs are doing fine. Because they own so much. They own so much more. In 2022, Americans under 25 spent 43% of their post-tax income on housing and education, including interest on debt from college, 43%. That's slightly below the average for under 25s from 89 to 2019. They spent more than 43% on housing and education. And the reason is not that housing and education were more expensive back then. They weren't. They were cheaper. The reason is that Zoomers just make more money. Zoomers, in the United States at least, their home ownership rates are higher than millennials. Now, millennials were screwed because they came of age during the financial crisis and they had a hard time finding jobs. And it's true that Gen Zers have home ownership rates lower than previous generations, but higher than millennials. So, Zoomers are doing pretty well. And in particular, they're doing well if you take into account that Zoomers generally, again, on average, work less. And that they invented the idea of quiet quitting. That is, doing enough work not to be fired. Somehow they still make good money. Bare minimum Mondays. Do you know bare minimum Mondays? Have you ever heard that? I have. So they think jobs are right. Millennials hustled for jobs. Zoomers just expect the job just to be there. At least, again, averages, surveys, doesn't reflect on everybody. Other aspects of Gen Z that are troubling. They're less likely to be entrepreneurs. They're less likely to be innovators, at least so far. Now, Gen Z is still coming of age, so we will see. And there are very few Zoomers on rich lists, whereas if you think about ultra rich, ultra young tech founders like Zuckerberg and Patrick Collison at Stripe and the guy who created Snapchat and others, you're not seeing many Zoomers like that. They're just not there. Right? So just some stats. So again, so far, Generation Z is doing really well. Now, a recession would hurt them. It always hurts the young more than anybody else. The young usually do worse than anybody else during a recession. They're likely to lose their jobs and so on. A recession would hit them hard, and that, they might fall back, but they do well. They also spend a lot. They are consumers. Gen Z are definitely consumers. So, the reality is that, I don't know if you saw the piece in the Wall Street Journal on work-life balance by a Gen Zer saying, to hell with work-life balance, just focus on work, make a lot of money, sacrifice whatever you need to do in order to make the money so at 30 you can be rich. Now, it's a bad piece because it divorces work from values and enjoyment and it's just about getting the money and he's talking about putting on 80 pounds because all he does is work. And there are Gen Zers like that work very hard. So generalizations are not helpful. The reality is this: there are plenty of jobs out there. The reality is that there are plenty of good paying jobs out there. The reality is that there are plenty, an unlimited number of new businesses to be started and created. There's a huge amount of risk to be taken. There are immense adventures to go on, places to visit, places to see. You can be now what you couldn't be in my generation. You couldn't be in any other generation. You could be a digital nomad. You can come and live in Lisbon and work for a company in the US. There's so many opportunities that you have. I know you think that having an iPhone is a burden. It's sinking your life. It's destroying your social relationships. But this is a massive asset if you know how to use it. And this computer and this camera, you couldn't do this. The number of professions that didn't exist in the past. The opportunities that you have because of technology that didn't exist, that make your life much easier, better, and provide you opportunities that nobody has ever had in the history of humanity. To sulk and pretend that the world is ending. Yes, I know this is what you've been taught and this is how you've been trained. But stop it. Take personal responsibility over your life. Figure out the path where you can pursue values, where you can pursue the values that are important for you. Go watch Steve Jobs' commencement address to Stanford. Find the things that you love. Go do the things that you love. If you can't do the things you love, then create the things that you love. Start a new business. Meet great people. There were no limits. There's nothing about your generation that is hampering you. Yes, politics sucks. Yes, the economy's not as good as it could be, but it's not that bad. Yes, there are more regulations, more controls, taxes are mildly higher, not that much. Okay, but to compensate for that, you have a world filled with technological opportunities. You have a world filled with opportunities. Again, this technology costs almost nothing. I remember fondly my first PC, my SE30, that cost $3,000 and could barely do anything. Now I have this amazing laptop that is like a gazillion times more powerful than that original desktop computer with a screen that's, 5 times bigger? And I can travel with it anywhere in the world, and it costs, half of that desktop computer or less. The opportunities that this technology creates for you to become so much more productive. It's why are you richer? Why are you making more money than previous generations? Because you're more productive. Why are you more productive? Because you have access to technology that makes you more productive. It's all the capital that's being invested in you, in the technology. So, I'll say it again. I keep saying it, I know, and you guys get upset. Stop whining. Get a life. Find your values. Find the things that you love. And if you don't know what you love, go experiment. Go try different things. Embrace technology. Build your life around, your career around technology. That's the future. One way or the other, it's the future. Learn right now. Learn how to use AI. Immerse yourself in AI. It's clearly what's coming. Whatever your field is, whatever you're passionate about, AI is going to play a role in it. So immerse yourself in it. Develop strategies to enhance your life, to pursue your values, to gain a job that'll make you enthusiastic and positive about the world. Accept the fact that you were lied to as a kid. The world is not going to end. You are not going to die. Your opportunities are not limited. They're unlimited. And yes, I know, if you're a foreigner, it's harder now to get into the United States, and that sucks. If you're in America, housing is expensive. It's expensive. It sucks. So you won't own a house until you're 38. So what? Go rent. Rent. And if housing is the most important thing in your life, then move to Cleveland or move to Iowa or move to somewhere where housing is dirt cheap. But live with a capital L. Stop feeling sorry for yourself and go make a life. You're too young to be sulking. You're too young to feel sorry for yourself. You're too young to be complaining. The world is far from perfect. Far from perfect. You would be so much richer in my world. But the world's not going to change because you sulk. Your opportunities are not going to grow because you complain. And socialism, popular among Gen Zers these days, or fascism, popular among Gen Zers these days, is not going to solve your problem. It's going to multiply your problems. It's going to lead to the world which will really suck, objectively suck, where your life will be horrible. So if you want the kind of life you pretend that you've got right now, if you want the kind of miserable life that you pretend that is only available to you now, then yeah, vote for the socialists and vote for the fascists. That'll get you there. But if you actually want to be successful in life, if you actually want values in life, then go find them, go make them, go create them, go pursue them. Go challenge the status quo, go change the world. Go with ambition and positivity. Become an entrepreneur, build a new business, create a new product, innovate. Teach us how it's done. Teach us boomers who know nothing how it's really done. So, enough, guys. I get these long things about how this and this is wrong and that is wrong. And every single thing there on the list is like, okay, so reality is what it is. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to make it better? And how are you going to make your life better? And, you know, it's like the guys who can't find any women. And so what they do, they give up. They become incels. Or men going their own way, or whatever the hell they want to call it. They give up. You didn't get your perfect job the first time, so you give up. Jobs are impossible. Your first startup failed, so you give up. That's not America. That's not what the spirit of this country used to be, at least. And it shouldn't be your spirit. Fail, try again. Learn, try again. There are good women out there for you to date and marry. There are good jobs out there for you to find. There are good businesses for you to start. Whining ain't going to get you there. All right, that is my Gen Z rant. I have a feeling that Christian will turn that into a short video. I have a feeling I'm going to gain subscribers or lose subscribers on this one. Anybody want to take bets? Do I gain subscribers or lose subscribers for my rant on Gen Z? I don't know. Most of my listeners are millennials, so most of my listeners are 24 to 44-year-olds. 25 to 44-year-olds. All right, completely switching topics. This initiative, peace initiative that Trump, peace in our time, that Trump has brought to the forefront. He has gone and met with Putin. He has met with Zelensky and half the leaders of Europe. They have convened, they have discussed, they have debated, and they're pushing a peace deal. It's not clear what this peace deal entails. It's not clear what this peace deal, security guarantees. The United States has said that it would, it's not going to put troops on the ground, but it would provide some security in the air. Nobody knows what exactly that means. And is it going to commit all administrations to doing that forever? Poland has said it's not going to put any troops on the ground, but maybe the Germans and the French and the British would. It's not clear. It's also clear that the Italians have basically said, look, what we need is a committee, and a committee that decides whether we should intervene in Ukraine or not. So the solution the Italians have, right? This is a typical European solution to everything. Let's form a committee, and we'll debate it and discuss it. And when something bad happens, we'll debate and discuss whether we should intervene. And by the time they intervene, it's all over. There's no seriousness here. And the reality is, security guarantees for what? For a peace deal. A peace deal that entails what? Entails giving Putin everything he wants? Well, I don't think Putin is ready to accept anything else. Now, it's gotten so ridiculous that, initially Trump was going to meet with Putin and Zelensky. And now Trump's saying, I don't want anything, I'm not meeting with them. They can meet themselves. The two of them should meet without me. Putin is suggesting the meeting happen in Moscow. Zelensky said, no way am I going to Moscow. Good for him. And then now Putin is saying, or actually Lavrov is his foreign secretary is saying, I don't know if this makes sense to have a meeting, because after all, we don't even know if Zelensky really is the legitimate president of Ukraine. We have to understand. So, Lavrov said, look, Putin has repeatedly said that he's ready to meet, including with Zelensky, with the understanding that all issues that require consideration at the highest level will be well worked out. That is, the meeting will be the end process. We've already agreed on everything. And experts and ministers will prepare appropriate recommendations. So he doesn't want to meet Zelensky in order to negotiate. He wants to meet Zelensky in order to sign the final agreement. And then he says, this is perfect. And of course, with the understanding, this is Lavrov, that when and if, hopefully when, it comes to signing future agreements, the issue of the legitimacy of the person who signs these agreements from the Ukrainian side will be resolved. So is Zelensky even legitimate? Is he representing of the Ukrainian people? I mean, clearly Putin doesn't believe he is. The Russians don't believe he is. So, the Russians are constantly delaying. Lavrov, in this same kind of press conference or discussion or whatever, kept saying that he kept calling Zelensky the so-called leader of Ukraine. And there's no sign that there's going to be a meeting. I mean, look, Russia wants territory. Russia wants territory, as J.D. Vance said, I think, today. Russia wants territory. It wants all those provinces that are said. But that's not all it wants. Russia clearly wants the destruction of Ukraine as an independent country. Russia wants to crush the Zelensky administration. Russia wants a puppet government in Kiev. Russia wants control of Ukraine. It's willing to acknowledge Ukraine if Ukraine is like Belarus. It has a president in Ukraine that it controls 100%. It has no interest, zero interest, in an independent Ukraine. And it's already said, Russia's already said, we're not going to accept security guarantees. I mean, yeah, in theory, we'll accept security guarantees, but maybe the Chinese should secure Ukraine. Maybe Chinese troops should be the peacekeepers. But just so you're clear, Putin is saying, any security guarantees given to Ukraine, we have veto power over. We get to decide what they are. You don't get to decide unilaterally what they are. So what are you guys even talking about? I mean, basically, Russia has not changed its demands since March 2022. It still holds the same position it did in March 2022. And by the way, in March 2022, it held a bigger portion of Ukraine than it does today. So it was in even better negotiating position back then than it is today. I mean, the whole thing is a charade. It's a charade. Earlier today, Trump wrote. Trump is getting a little frustrated, I see. But, and he's starting to vaguely, kind of at the edge of his consciousness, identify and realize what's really going on and the position Ukraine is in, right? So here's what he writes. It is very hard, if not impossible, to win a war without attacking the invader's country. It's like a great team in sports that has a fantastic defense, but is not allowed to play offense. And that's absolutely true. There is no chance of winning. It is like that with Ukraine and Russia. And here he goes. Crooked and grossly incompetent Joe Biden would not let Ukraine fight back, only defend. How did that work out? Regardless, this is a war that would have never happened if I were president. Zero chance, all cap. Interesting times ahead. So Trump is starting to realize that we, America, have been handicapping, been tying the hands of Ukraine. That maybe if we'd given them the appropriate weapons, maybe they could have won. Now, I don't know if this is going to affect, how he's going to treat Ukraine. I don't know if this is going to affect what weapons he's willing to sell Ukraine. But it is interesting, and of course this also came on a day where he decided he's not going to meet with Putin and Zelensky. If Putin and Zelensky want to meet, they meet by themselves. One of the security guarantees that Trump claimed when he signed the Minute deal with Zelensky was, look, if we invest in Ukraine, and if Russia attacks that, then we're going to intervene because Russia's attacking something owned by Americans. Well, the main target of Russia's overnight attack last night on Ukraine was one of the biggest American investments in Ukraine, an electronics plant in Mukachevi, something like that, on the Hungarian border. Hundreds of workers managed to flee to shelter just before 2 Russian missiles struck. Right? So he's already attacking American assets, American investments in Ukraine, and the U.S. is doing nothing. So look, again, as I said, this is all theater. Nothing is happening. Trump will be presented as attempting to make peace, but this is always futile. Putin is just doubling down on all his previous demands. Nothing has changed. I don't think he ever told Trump anything had changed. I think Trump was deluding himself. And unless basically Ukraine surrenders, Europe backs off, and Ukraine becomes a satellite of Russia, there will be no peace. And of course, the alternative is Ukraine getting the weapons they need to actually hammer the Russians and push them out, or at least push out many of them, so they can be in a better negotiating position. And that would be pretty amazing if it can be achieved. All right. From one war to another. Just a reminder that ask questions. You can use the Super Chat to ask questions. I answer all Super Chat questions. I read all Super Chat comments. So you can say whatever you want to say. If there's a Gen Zer out there that wants to argue with me, Super Chat is a great place to do it in. But bring facts, please. Bring data, not just anecdotes. And yeah, ask questions, do stickers, support the show. A show that is only possible because of you, those of you, not all of you, those of you who actually provide financial support for the show. All right, so I've got two stories from The Guardian. The Guardian is a publication in Great Britain, one of the largest mainstream media publications in Great Britain. Both of them. Actually, this is not The Guardian. Why am I saying it's The Guardian? I thought it was The Guardian. It's not. All right. Anyway, I think The Guardian is quoting this, or has quoted this. A lot of people quoting this. This is a different publication, Plus 972 magazine. Anyway, this is going to make the rounds. All the anti-Israel people are going to quote this all over the place. And it's worth getting in front of it and just giving you the context. Although the context is in the article, but it's on the headline and nobody's going to get it. Nobody's going to actually think when they read, because who does that? Right? Nobody does that. Here's the headline. Israeli army database suggests at least 83% of Gazan dead were civilians. At least 83%. And this, they say, indicating a proportion of civilian slaughter with few parallels in modern warfare. Now, we don't know what the database actually says, because nobody's actually seen the database except sources that this magazine is reporting. A database does exist, but it's pretty clear what the database is referring to. So this database includes a list of 47,653 names of Palestinians in Gaza, which the Israeli intelligence, Aman is military intelligence, considers to be active in the military wings of Hamas and Palestinian Jihad, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. So these are people that Israel has identified as belonging, 34,973 of Hamas operatives and 12,702 operatives of Islamic Jihad, and this is as of the beginning of the war. These are people whose name they know. People whose name they know. All right. Next step. Israel has identified. Once again, where is that number? I know the number was here somewhere. Israel has identified that it has killed 8,900 terrorists. The article calls them militants. We'll call them, well, I mean, they're actually military personnel in the state of Gaza. They've killed 8,900 of them. So they take the 8,900, right, and they say those are the militants that have been killed, the military personnel that's been killed. Total number dead in Gaza is, I don't know, something like 60,000. 8,900 out of 60,000. Wow. 83% of Gaza dead were civilians. Because the assumption is that anybody other than the 8,900 people that Israel has identified by name was a militant, was a member of Hamas or Islamic Jihad, must be a civilian. Now, what is the fallacy there? The logical, obvious fallacy there. And it's important to set this out because, again, this is a number that's going to be used now forever, 83%. Now, look, I have no number in terms of what's acceptable civilian casualties in a war. So I don't, that doesn't bother me that much, but it's just wrong to use this because it's just not true. By your own story, it's not true. Because what does it assume? It assumes that every single member of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad that Israel has killed, they also identified by name. They also checked his name off on the database. And we know that's not true. Tunnels were blown up with people inside. They don't know who was in there. People were shot in the battlefield. They didn't go and identify every single one of the bodies. They bomb, war rooms. They bomb cars. They bomb homes. With Hamas and Islamic Jihad inside. They don't necessarily know every single person there. I mean, this is just made up. The fact that they could identify 8,700 of them, 8,900 of them, is pretty amazing intelligence. That they actually had a name associated with 8,900 bodies that are out there in Gaza having been killed over 2 years. They've killed many thousand, many thousands of terrorists, but they don't know their names. They don't know who they are on the list. They've never seen the face. They're deep in tunnels and under rubble. And the article says this. It acknowledges that these are people that are identified by name, right? It says here, since it does not include operatives who were killed but could not be identified by name. It doesn't include Gazans that took part in fighting but were not official members of Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And it does not include political figures in Hamas which Israel considers a legitimate target. It says it in the article, and yet they still use the 83% figure. They still talk about carnage of civilians. It is so dishonest. It is truly, truly pathetic. The IDF did write a statement to The Guardian when The Guardian published this data, saying, figures presented in the article are incorrect and do not reflect the data available in the IDF systems. That won't make any difference to anybody. But the whole point of this, it's just wrong on its face. By Israel's estimate, they've killed probably close to 30,000. And the number of civilians is 1-to-1 civilian to military. And by that measure, it makes it one of the fewest civilian casualty events in modern warfare. Much less than Iraq, much less than Afghanistan even. But here you go. You're never, you're going to be now inundated with this propaganda. Anyway, you now know how to combat it. It's basically bullshit. For every one identified Hamas, there are probably 3 that are unidentified. So there's probably 20,000 that are not identified, leading to about 30,000 Hamas members killed. Hamas and Islamic Jihad, and other terrorist organizations which are also active in Gaza. All right, so that is a clearly deceptive story and using statistics to deceive. This one is interesting. This is also in The Guardian. This one is kind of a come to Jesus article, or a come to, reality article. Even The Guardian, left-wing publication that it is. The Guardian's very left. It's left of the New York Times. It's left in British standards, which is way left in American standards even. And this is what the headline of this article has. This is amazing. Dramatic slowdown in melting of Arctic sea ice surprises scientists. Just to read from the article, the melting of sea ice in the Arctic has slowed dramatically in the past 20 years, scientists have reported, with no statistically significant decline in its extent since 2005. Now that's shocking, because that completely contradicts all the predictions, all the models. It continues, the finding is surprising, the researchers say, given that carbon emissions from fossil fuels burning have continued to rise and trap even more heat over time. They said natural variations in ocean currents that limit ice melting had probably balanced out the continuing rise in global temperatures. However, they said this was only a temporary reprieval. Don't worry, we're still going to all die from climate change. Don't worry. A temporary reprieval, and melting was highly likely to start again at about double the long-term rate at some point in the next 5 to 10 years. The findings do not mean Arctic sea ice is rebounding. Sea ice area in September, when it reached its annual minimum, has halved since 1979. But it just hasn't gotten any worse since 2005, which surprised them. But don't worry, it's going to happen, because we've been so good at our predictions in the past that we should expect our predictions in the future to be true. God forbid we actually question the models, or reevaluate the models, or reevaluate our thinking, or dig in deeper into what's going on. They still say the Arctic is still expected to see ice-free conditions later in the century, harming people and wildlife in the region, and boosting global heating by exposing the dark, heat-absorbing ocean. Well, if the ocean absorbs heat, then wouldn't that make it? I don't know. I shouldn't comment, because I don't know the science. So yeah, it's not happening. Catastrophe has not happened. Things are good, but don't worry, they're about to get a lot worse. We were wrong for 20 years, but don't worry, we will be right in the next 10 to 15 years. I mean, this is my argument against climate change catastrophism, one of my main arguments. Because I'm not a climate scientist. I don't understand the models. I don't know the models. I haven't run the models. I haven't analyzed the models. It's not my field. I don't have a strong opinion about the models. But this is what I have a strong opinion about, because I'm a finance guy. And as a finance guy, if you come to me with an investment idea, the first thing I ask you is, how's this idea done in the past? Have you run simulations? Have you invested this idea? And you tell me, in the past, it's never been able to predict anything. It has always failed. Like when we predicted overpopulation, yeah, we failed in that. We didn't predict it right then. And then we predicted global cooling. Yeah. That was a bad prediction. And then we predicted, we would all die in 5 years. I mean, yeah, didn't work out. But this time the model will work. We haven't changed our thinking. Our thinking is still governed by the same model. But this time it'll work. This time we're sure that the world will end. It's never ended before when we predicted it. But don't worry. Now, none of you would give that person money if this was a financial thing. Yeah, we didn't predict the financial crisis. We've never really made any money. We've never really predicted the direction of markets. But we know we can in the future. And yeah, for the last 20 years, our model didn't work. Ice didn't melt. But it will work for the next 20 years. We guarantee it. Really, it's science. We got a bunch of scientists telling us this. Sorry. I don't believe you. When your predictions start working out, when you can actually make money in the market, which is the equivalent of predicting, then I'll look at it again. I'll reconsider. There's nothing in philosophy, there's nothing in my view of the world that says that we couldn't have catastrophic warming. I guess we could. I don't know enough about the science to say it's impossible. I do know that the people in the environmentalist movement have been lying and deceiving us, have been wrong, have been confused, have used bad science or inaccurate science or immature science or whatever they want to call it, and they've been wrong. And until they're right about something, I'm not going to take them too seriously. So my general view is, yes, it makes sense that the world is warming, and there's enough anecdotal evidence to suggest that at least in some places, climate has changed and there's warming. Whether it's man-made or not, hard to tell. Probably some of it is man-made. There might be other factors. I see no reason to believe the catastrophism. I see no reason to believe there's a catastrophe around the corner, that we're all going to die, that we're all going to be flooded. And if sea levels rise, I'm a big believer in building dikes, in using technology to overcome whatever challenges we face. So I don't buy any of the catastrophism. And I can do that without being a scientist, because I know enough about this group of people, these environmentalists' history, about their motivation, about their success in predicting the future and the past, and I know enough about human ingenuity to be able to say, yep, we'll survive. We'll survive. I mean, I don't have first-hand information. I'm not a climate scientist. I haven't studied the graphs. I don't have as much information as Alex does. I trust Alex, so I trust his analysis, and his analysis, I think, is consistent with what I just said. But again, what I do have first-hand information is, because I've been around since the 1960s, that they've been wrong and 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 wrong. And it's very, very rare that they're little right. And when they are right, it's just a little. And it's never with hysteria that they project. All right, California. There's a press release today, by Bed Bath & Beyond, a company that used to see Bed Bath & Beyond everywhere. It was an incredible, successful retailer that had stored in every strip mall. Lots of strip malls would have Bed Bath & Beyonds. We had one in Puerto Rico. And it went bankrupt not that long ago, but I guess it's come out of bankruptcy. It shrunk. It's a lot smaller, but it still exists. It's still out there operating, Bed Bath & Beyond. And Bed Bath & Beyond executive chairman, Marcus Lemonis, announced on Wednesday that the one thing they will not do, the one thing that they know they will not do as they try to recover coming out of bankruptcy, is they won't open or operate any retail stores in California. And he said, look, I like this statement. He says, this is not about politics. It's about reality. That's perfect. It's not about politics, it's about reality. I actually have the letter here. One second. Let me pull up the letter that he wrote. I mean, this is a statement from the chairman, right? We will not open or operate retail stores in California. This decision isn't about politics. It's about reality. California has created one of the most overregulated, expensive, and risky environments for business in America. It's a system that makes it harder to employ people, harder to keep the doors open, harder to deliver value to customers. The result, higher taxes, higher fees, higher wages that many businesses simply cannot sustain, and endless regulations that strangle growth. Even when the state announces a budget surplus, it's built on the backs of ordinary citizens who are paying too much, and business were squeezed until they break. At Bed Bath & Beyond, our responsibility is to our customers and our shareholders. We will not participate in a system that undermines both. Instead, we're investing in a California strategy that works. 24 to 48 hour delivery. And in many cases, same-day service. Californians will continue to get the products they love through bedbathandbeyond.com, but without the inflated costs created by an unsustainable model. In other words, they'll be building warehouses in Nevada and Arizona, across the border. We're taking a stand because it's time for common sense. Business deserves the chance to succeed. Employees deserve jobs that last. And customers deserve fair prices. California's system delivers the opposite. That's why Bed Bath & Beyond will serve California customers directly through bedbathandbeyond.com on our terms and with their best interests at heart. Standing ovation. Good for him. This is what we used to call going Galt. Basically, he is withdrawing his sanction from the state of California, doing it and presenting it in a self-interested way. This is about us. This is about our shareholders. And this is about our employees. And this is about our customers. This is about, being able to run our business. And it's well done. And, I love the part where he says, yeah, they run a surplus, but that's because they're squeezing. It's on the backs of citizens, and they're squeezing businesses until they break. I mean, how many CEOs have the guts to stand up to government like this? So good for Marcus Lemonis. I congratulate him. Maybe the Unrated Institute should send him a letter congratulating him. Anyway, this is great, and I will check out Bed Bath & Beyond. I thought they'd gone. I thought they were gone. Oh, I guess here's the story. So in 2023, the original Bed Bath & Beyond filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and shuttered all physical stores after contending with the issues such as poor inventory management, slow adoption of online shopping trends, and so on. Overstock.com purchased this brand name, domain, and other intellectual property for $21 million in June 2023, and subsequently relaunched the website under the Bed Bath & Beyond banner. In November 2023, Overstock rebranded its corporate identity as Beyond Inc., but Cookland Inc. finalized a $25 million investment deal with Beyond, which is also the parent company of Overstock. Anyway, this is all complicated, and the consequence of this is that Cookland is going to become the exclusive brick and mortar operator and licensee for new, smaller format neighborhood Bed Bath & Beyond locations nationwide. They changed their corporate name to Bed Bath & Beyond. Cookland did, after they bought all the assets. They have listed in the stock market under BBBY on the New York Stock Exchange, and they are making a go at resurrecting Bed Bath & Beyond at the same time as they are growing Overstock.com. Overstock.com as something separate. All right, that's the story of Bed Bath & Beyond. But I love this letter. I love this statement. If more CEOs just stood up to some of these crazy things that government is doing, we would all be living in a better world. And certainly I think the CEOs overall would be in a better world. Cookland is Costco's generic brand. I wonder if I doubt it's the same ones, but maybe, I don't know. But we should send a copy of Atlas Shrugged to the CEO. I've made a note of that. Hopefully we can do that. Here's a funny story. Not a positive story, I guess, but a funny story. So it turns out that Trump has decided that his big, beautiful wall between Mexico and the United States should be painted black. Because what is happening, I guess, I haven't read much about this, in spite of the fact that, crossings of the U.S. border has fallen by something like 92% since Trump is coming to office, there's still people, I guess, climbing the wall and getting over it and succeeding in coming into the United States. And that's, of course, not acceptable to President Trump. So he is suggesting that in order to stop them from being able to climb the wall, he is going to have the wall painted black. Painted black. By the way, just so you know, the 1,350-mile border wall, painting it black will cost around $2.5 billion. $2.5 billion. Now, why would you paint it black? And why would painting it black reduce the number of people climbing over the wall? I couldn't figure that out. I mean, what's the color got to do with how many people? Maybe they can't see it at night? I don't know. I mean, it's Trump after all, so who knows what he's thinking. It turns out this is the reason. Black will cause the wall to absorb more heat, and therefore, because it's made of metal. So black, the metal will absorb more heat, it will become hotter, and it'll become more difficult to climb over the wall, I guess during the day at least, to get in. It's because black absorbs more sunlight. $2.5 billion. I'll say it again, $2.5 billion. Billion. To paint this wall black. And you have to paint on both sides to absorb as much heat as you can, and the sun moves. I think they could cut the cost if they could, if they went to Home Depot, and instead of ICE arresting the people standing outside of Home Depot looking for a job, they actually employed them in painting the wall black. They would probably do it for half price. Probably they'd do it for 1.25 billion instead of 2.5 billion. There you go. This is what your government is spending money on. Painting walls black so that they heat up more, so that people trying to come into the United States to work burn their hands and feet and legs and body trying to cross and fall off the wall and with third-degree burns. Just, of course, they could buy gloves. I don't know if they've thought of gloves. You think the illegal immigrants have thought of gloves? Maybe they bought gloves. They could climb the wall even if it's black. I don't know. You guys tell me. The sunshine is mostly on the Mexican side. That's true. They'll paint that side black too. I mean, I think the Mexican side is still in America, so they can paint that black, and they will paint that black too. So they'll catch the sun no matter where it is, and they'll make sure those Mexicans who try, or whoever, it's not Mexicans primarily, who try to cross over, will still get burnt. I mean, I guess the next thing is to tunnel underneath. I don't know, or buy gloves, bring a ladder. There's got to be ways to get over the wall, right? A ladder, you need something on the other side, a parachute, I don't know. Be creative. Hey, immigrants, if you want to come to America, be creative. The wall is now black. Imagine if this happened, like every night on the Mexican side, a bunch of guys would come out and paint it white. and then they'd have to paint it black again, and then it would cost more than $2.5 billion. It would cost $5 billion because they'd have to repaint it all the time. That would be kind of funny. There's a comedy there. Somebody should make a comedy about the black wall. All right, that is the news on that unserious note, but then, this is the administration's doing, and they're not serious. That is the news on this August 21st, Thursday. We're getting close to the end of August. Yes, we will now move to the Super Chat section of the show. And I just will encourage everybody to jump in and support the Yaron Brook Show. If you gain value out of the show, please show it in return. A trade, become a trader, be a trader. Traders pay for what they get. You guys are listening to the show, many of you after the fact, after it's live, many of you live. There's 120 on YouTube. There's probably a similar amount, 154 on X. You should become traders. You can do so by coming over and doing a sticker, $1.99 and 99 cents, or $50, whatever you guys want. Or you could become a monthly supporter, a regular monthly supporter on Patreon. Yes, help support the show. That would be really fantastic. Again, it's an issue of integrity, and it's an issue of value for value and being a trader. They are also, if you are willing, please press the like button. That costs you nothing, and it helps the algorithm fantastically. Really helps the algorithm. It elevates the show. It exposes it to more people. So just press the like button. We don't. Somebody said in the chat we only have 7. You have to refresh your screen. There's a lot more than 7, but there still should be a lot more given how many people have watched the show already and are on live right now. So please consider supporting the show and engaging. Lucinda just gifted 5 memberships. That's another way you can support the show, is by gifting memberships. I'm going to gift 5. I just gifted 5 memberships. But you too can gift memberships. That's another way to support the show and to raise money for the show. But again, this show couldn't exist without financial support from you. To the extent that you don't support it financially, you're putting the show at risk. All right. What did I want to say? About? Yeah, Patreon. Become a supporter on Patreon, please. That helps a lot. That is consistent money. John just did a sticker. Let me thank the sticker people, and then we'll go on with answering your questions. But Catherine, thank you. John, thank you. And let's see. Yeah, Barbara, thanks. PB, thank you. And Jonathan Honing, of course, as always, is here. Thank you, Jonathan. And Catherine again. So Catherine did twice. Yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate the support. But questions are better. You know why questions are better? Because you get to shape the show, and you get to ask me questions, and I get to answer them. There's a bit of a drop-off in questions. I don't know if that's because you're questioned out. You just have asked all the questions you have, or you're becoming shy, or I'm not sure. But ask questions. I'll talk about anything, as you know. All right, David. David, thank you. David did 2 questions at $50 each. So let's start with the first one. Hi, Yaron. Glad to be able to join today's show. I feel you didn't give Trump administration kudos for brokering the Azerbaijan-Armenia peace deal. Your thoughts? I mean, look, I'm not an expert on Azerbaijan, Albania, but Armenia. God, Albania somewhere else. Azerbaijan, Armenia. But the reality is that I don't think that they were that involved. That is, I think they managed to create a great photo op, and they maybe put the finishing touches and got them all under the same place to actually sign the deal. But my understanding, and granted, it might be flawed because I haven't really gone deep into it, is that this deal has been worked on for months now. It started last year after the Azerbaijanis kicked Armenians' butt, after the Azerbaijanis basically showed them that this significantly superior to them militarily, so the Armenians had no option but to negotiate this deal. This is not a deal Armenia 2-3 years ago would have said, yeah, we'll take that. No, this is not a pro-Armenia deal. But Armenia came to the conclusion they have no choice for 2 reasons. One, they lost in a war to Azerbaijan pretty clearly. It was unequivocal. And second, they lost their sponsor. That is, I think Armenia expected the Russians to support them in that war. They expected the Russians to back them up. They expected the Russians to come to their aid, at least in some way, and the Russians did nothing, just like the Russians did nothing with Iran. So they were really disappointed with Russia's approach, and so they had no choice but to negotiate with Azerbaijan. They did not want another war. So that's one reason they won, and America had nothing to do with that victory. That is, Azerbaijan won that, and again, I'm not pro-Azerbaijan, but Azerbaijan won that primarily because of aid from Israel and from Turkey. And my understanding that most of the negotiating for this deal was done by Turkey and France. France has become a major ally of Armenia and stepped in to kind of support Armenia in the negotiations. Turkey has been an ally of Azerbaijan forever. The Azeris are Turkish by tribal association, if you go back long enough. So I'd say that most of the work, most of the proposals happened under the guidance of the French and the Turks, and the Trump administration stepped in and took advantage of the situation that had already been worked out for the most part and capitalized on. And nobody wants to step on Trump's toes. Nobody wants to, Macron doesn't want to say, no, I did this. Trump, why are you taking credit for this? So that is my understanding of what happened. I could be wrong. It could be that Trump played a much bigger role in it than I'm giving him credit for, but I'm skeptical. And the reality is that most of the hard work was done by Azerbaijan and Armenia. I really don't think America played a big role there. So yeah, that's why I didn't give the Trump administration much credit, because I don't think they deserve it. David, second question, $50 as well. Thank you, David. I'm frustrated with my kids' negative view of Israel. I try to present them with the facts, and they've agreed to disagree, but then I see my daughter posting a starvation narrative on her Instagram. How can I convince them? Well, I mean, you're battling kind of their what's acceptable socially within the world in which they live, which is on Instagram and on Facebook and all of that. I mean, I think there are a few things that are worth doing. One of them is I would take them to Israel. I'd put them on a plane and take them to Israel. And I would spend some time in Israel. I would take them to Gaza border. I would take them to the Lebanese border. I'd take them to the Syrian border. I would ask them if they see any differences. I would have them meet Israeli kids their age and have them talk to Israeli kids their age about their experiences. So I would expose them to firsthand, give them firsthand experience with it. Israel's a great place to visit. You'll have a good time. They will object to going, but you're their parent. You tell them they have to go, and just take them there. Second, I don't know how old they are, but I would sit them down and make them watch the videos that Hamas filmed on October 7th. And I would make them watch the rebuttal videos to all the starvation stuff. I would show them the headlines where the New York Times is retracting their stories. And the stories of, people who oppose Hamas, even within Gaza. So you can't agree to disagree. You have to bring out all the ammunition you have. And certainly the biggest ammunition I think you have is taking them to Israel. That's the best advice I have. I don't know if it's any good. I don't know if it's doable. I don't know. But I don't know dynamics. But I wouldn't agree to disagree. They are wrong. This is wrong. It's unjust. This is horrible. And reality is what it is. And you can't let them ignore reality. And you've got to confront them with reality over and over and over again, because otherwise they'll learn that truth is to be found on Instagram. And truth is not to be found on Instagram. Make them read a book. Make them watch a documentary or watch a TV series. But think about all the retracted headlines from the New York Times. New York Times had a story and then retracts it. And BBC even more so. So hopefully that helps at least a little bit. Wes says, I just watched $50 as well. Thank you, Wes. I just watched your segment on Carlson and feudalism from the last show. It's absolutely amazing that people can operate with such primitive ideas. Isn't it just stunning? Just absolutely stunning. So I don't know if you saw the latest clip from Carlson. I was going to show it today, but then I figured, we've had enough of Tucker Carlson. So I didn't show it, but I don't know if you've seen it. It's online. It's available. It's easy to find. He's interviewing a guest, and the guest goes through this whole discussion, and at some point he says, like, it's probably the case that we should have sided with Hitler against Stalin in World War II. I mean, I laugh because what else can you do? And Tucker Carlson's nodding his head. I mean, the United States should have sided with Hitler. Stalin was the real evil because he's a lefty, right? And he actually says maybe the Holocaust wouldn't have happened then. How is us siding with Hitler going to prevent the Holocaust? Exactly. And anyway, the whole thing is so disgusting. But this is the kind of people he has regularly on the show that he agrees with, that he supports, right? This is Tucker Carlson. And I will remind all of you, as if you need reminding, that I've been warning you about Tucker Carlson for years and years and years, well before he took this completely insane route. I warned you. I told you this is what he was. And he's become exactly the worst version of what I thought he was. But there you go. All right, guys, another reminder, we've got goals. You guys have been weak on achieving those goals the last few days. We've got to get back on track. We got to get those 2-hour goals. We've got enough people watching right now that it should be definitely attainable. Just with some stickers and some questions and some people doing $20, $50, stuff like that, we should be able to make it. But yeah, we've been slacking off a little bit. So we still got $200 to get to the $500 goal, which is the 2-hour goal. And of course, if you ask a lot of questions, we keep going to the 3rd hour. But let's try to make it a value for value. Lots of people watching who've never contributed to the show. Jump in and contribute. And yeah, you can do a sticker. You don't have to ask a question. You can do a sticker instead of that. Like RDF just did a $2 sticker. Yeah, if everybody just does that, we're good. We're golden. Jennifer, a quote from Neil Peart. Quote, "Lady Luck is golden. She favors the bold. Stop throwing stones. The night has 1,000 saxophones. So get out there and rock and roll the bones. Get busy." That's right. There's a song for Gen Zers. Get busy. Start producing. Start making something in your life. Don't just sit there and whine and complain. Do stuff. So good for Neil Peart. He had some great lyrics. It reminds me of Dr. Seuss has some great stuff. Have you ever read Dr. Seuss? I mean, he has some amazing. Some of his books are truly amazing, and I forget the names of them. But there's one a birthday thing, and there's one about the things you'll do, the places you'll go. That's my favorite. Oh, the places you'll go. That is such a good book. It is so much fun. And it's and he comes down on the bureaucrats and the wastefulness of waiting and being in line. I hate being in line. And it's so value oriented. It's so action oriented. You got to check out Dr. Seuss. If you haven't read Dr. Seuss, I know he's not politically correct, but Oh, the Places You'll Go is a wonderful book. And if you have kids, it's a must-have to read to your kids. That one, and I think there's a birthday book that's also really good. But The Places You'll Go is my favorite. Check it out. I think you're probably laughing, oh, that boomer again. But no, I think it's good for Gen Zers too. Gen Zers should read Oh, the Places You'll Go. Yeah, that's right. David reminds me the book also comes down on charlatans. Makes fun of charlatans. My favorite parts is waiting for this and waiting for that and waiting for porn. And he says, don't wait. Just go do. It's an exciting, motivating, thrilling, I think, book. All right, David asks, do you have any thoughts on Gavin Newsom's trolling Trump on social media? I mean, good for Gavin Newsom. I don't know if it'll work. I don't understand trolling. I don't understand the attraction it has. But it shows Gavin Newsom to be standing up to Trump and being willing to stick it at Trump and go after Trump. And I think the Democrats need that. They need a figure who is willing to do that and be energized and vocal and trolling, I guess. So I get why he's doing it. I don't know that it works. I don't understand these things, but why not? I guess he called him tiny hands. It's great, and the thing is that Trump can't handle it. So Trump is super upset by this stuff because he has a very thin skin, because he has no self-esteem. And I'm sure it's pissing Trump off. So just that is worth it. Just the idea, the thought that Trump is being pissed off by the trolling of Gavin Newsom makes it all worthwhile. Gavin Newsom is another. He's a creep. He's dishonest. He's a leftist. He's a politician. He's a hypocrite. He's a terrible human being. So it's not like I like Gavin Newsom. He's just a terrible human being. But to the extent that he can get under Trump's skin, go for it. Go for it. Richard, I had an idea. Quote, those who expect the worst of people fear freedom. How would you improve it? No, I think that's a good statement. I think people who expect the worst of people are afraid of freedom, because then people will have the freedom to do horrible things to them. People will act their worst. I think this is why Christians can never be for freedom, never trust individuals, because we're all fallen. And as fallen individuals, freedom might allow us to do horrible things to ourselves, to other people. So Christians can never be, real Christians who believe in the fall, Christians who believe, can never be pro-real freedom, individual rights, freedom. And I think socialists who have a very negative view of man, of self-interest, and believe that freedom encourages people to pursue their self-interest, can never be pro-freedom, because then again, you're leaving people free to pursue their self-interest, which means they'll do horrible things. So in that sense, Christians and socialists and leftists who all have a very, very negative view of the nature of man and of self-interest are never going to be for freedom. So Christianity inherently is anti-freedom, in my view. You had to really modify it dramatically, as the Founding Fathers did in their heads and when they wrote about it, to make it somehow even remotely compatible with freedom. So I like that formulation. Andrew, motivation by fear can create self-esteem made of defensive survival values. But that's not self-esteem. But it pales in comparison to self-esteem made by motivation from love, a psychological creation of the existential creator. Any thoughts? I don't think the first one is self-esteem. Motivation by fear can create values out there. It can create stuff. It can drive you, but it's exactly the fact that it undermines self-esteem, because the fear never makes you feel like you've earned it. The fear never makes you feel like you're responsible. The fear separates you from true responsibility and understanding of what led to your success. So you can never achieve pride, and as a consequence, you can never really attain self-esteem. So I think it's pseudo-self-esteem. I think self-esteem motivated by love or from love is, you're right, you understand that you created this, that you created it for yourself and because it's your values. And therefore you gain all the psychological and existential benefits from it, including self-esteem. Lucinda. Thank you, Lucinda. And I saw you also gifted some memberships. That's great. Lucinda says, my mom got a letter from police because her boyfriend made some mean comment about Islam, which count as punishable posts. Court hearing is in a week. The longer I am in Germany, the less I like it. Can't wait to leave. Yeah, I mean, everything I'm reading, maybe I'll do this as a story tomorrow. Everything I'm reading, just the free speech situation in Europe, particularly in Germany and the UK, is truly horrific. And the prime focus, shockingly, is to protect Muslims, protect their feelings, to protect them from insult. It basically shows that the publisher of the Muslim cartoons, Fleming Rose, was 100% right, that Europeans are being silenced when it comes to Islam, that Islam is winning that war. The Europeans have agreed to be silenced. This bodes very, very badly for the future of Europe. Now, again, I still strongly believe the Europeans will wake up one day and hammer the Muslims as a consequence. But in the meantime, there's a lot of pain to be had. And, free speech is really dying in Germany. I mean, I wonder if I can even come and give a talk there. Particularly if it's on, foreign policy or something like that. It's not true everywhere, but certainly in Germany, you can't say anything that might be viewed as offensive by a Muslim. You can't draw a cartoon of Muhammad, I guess. That would be against the law because some Islamist is going to be offended by it. Where are you heading, Lucinda? So where are you going to leave? The problem is, where do you go? Germany bad. Where do you go? I actually like Portugal. I'll tell you why. Well, the weather's great, so that's a big plus. But Portugal has a lot of immigrants, and a lot of immigrants from Africa. But most of them are not Muslim. So the immigrants, and this is different than Spain, and it's because where the Portuguese, colonies were, Angola, Mozambique, where almost all the inhabitants are Christians. Catholics, primarily, some evangelicals, some still probably pagan. But so the Africans who come to Portugal, who you see in the streets of Lisbon, are not Muslim. And my problem is not with immigration. My problem was with Islam, particularly with Islamists. So, it really is horrible. Anne says, which right-wing group is attacking free speech there? They all are, all of them. The government. The government is a right-of-center government, and they're attacking free speech. It's consistently in Europe. Now, it's true that the far right is pro-speech that offends Islam. So they're pro-speech that offends Islam. But we know that far right is always anti-free speech that offends them. So they will make it legal to offend Islam, and they're likely ultimately to make it illegal to offend Christianity. Now that'll take a while. Or to offend Hitler, or to offend I don't know who. So the far right has always been anti-free speech. They're just okay with offending Islam. But it's a right-of-center government in Germany right now. But I'm curious where. So I think while Portugal has a lot of immigrants, it's a lot less coercive and a lot less damaging because the proportion of those immigrants who are Muslim is a lot smaller. They do have quite a few, I think, from Pakistan and India, but again, the African ones are pretty much all Christian. So it's a big difference. All right, David. Just want to be extra generous today because I've been free writing past few months, listening to your show and podcast. Thank you for your hard work. It brings me tremendous value. Thank you, David. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you for your generosity. That is great. And I'm glad you're enjoying the show and listening to it regularly, even if you're not live. All right, guys, we've cut the deficit spending. We've cut the deficit in half, but and David is mostly responsible for most of the super chats today because he did 3 $50 ones. But we still got $100 to go, so 5 $20 questions, we'll do it. Or 10 $10 questions, 20 $5 questions. Or just stickers, a lot of stickers, that'll do it too. I did see some stickers, I thought. RDF, I think I thanked RDF already. All right, so maybe no new ones. All right, let's keep going with questions. Blaze Guitar Lessons. If the U.S. falls, where would you go, recommend going? Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's really, really difficult. End of the world scenario, I like New Zealand because it's in the middle of nowhere, has no natural resources that anybody really wants, and it's a beautiful place with people who speak English. So maybe New Zealand. Argentina, if Milei continues to be successful, so somewhere in South America that is not super violent like Brazil or I don't know, but even Costa Rica now is becoming more violent. I don't know if David feels that, but the statistics show that violence is increasing in Costa Rica. So somewhere in Latin America where you'll just be left alone. And again, I like Southern Europe. I like Portugal. So I think that if things get really bad in America, things also get really bad in Europe. So I'm not counting on it, but I doubt U.S. falls without a lot of damage being done all over the world. Blaze Guitar Lessons. Is it worth pushing the state legislature to remove occupational license laws, such as for plumbers, barbers, cosmologists, etc., or is it futile? No, I think it's definitely worth doing. I think there's been some success in loosening those up and reducing occupational licensing in the states. You can support IJ, the Institute for Justice, in their effort to try to fight against occupational licensing laws. So yeah, I definitely think that is an avenue to pursue in affecting state legislatures, and has been successful. Yes, David confirms that there's plenty of violence in Costa Rica. Never used to be, but violence is spiked as violence declined in El Salvador. The gang is going to go somewhere. They've got too much money. Again, the only way to get rid of the violence is to legalize drugs. Kim, but Gantz also saw our government bankrupt people's businesses on a whim due to COVID. Who's Gantz? Oh, Gen Z. But Gen Z also saw a government bankrupt people's businesses on a whim due to COVID. Yeah, although, the reality is that most businesses, even small businesses, were bailed out by what was it called? The one that did employment that you could apply for during the crisis. So most small businesses got a big bailout from the government. Almost everybody got a bailout from the government. But yeah, some businesses did on a whim. I don't think that's what affected them. I think what affected them is the lockdowns. I think they were traumatized by the lockdowns. They were isolated by the lockdowns. The fear that they already had because of climate change and all the rest of it was just exacerbated by the lockdowns. So I think the lockdowns really are the things that had the worst kind of impact on Gen Z. I don't think it's small businesses shutting down. I don't know how aware Gen Zers were of small businesses shutting down. Graham, thank you, Graham, 50 Canadian dollars, really appreciate that. I'm seeing this young woman right now who's an adamant socialist, but she's beautiful. And I feel like I'm too young to let something like politics get in the way of sex and fun thoughts. I mean, I don't think politics should get in the way. I don't think you should decide who to date and who to have sex with based on politics. as long as they share some values with you. If all she is beautiful, then I don't know that you're getting the most out of the sex and fun that you could be getting. What you need to find somebody who really shares values. Now, they don't have to be political values, but they have to be something that is in common between the two. I mean, sex is a pretty intimate activity to have with somebody that you don't share any values with. But yeah, I mean, I have no problem in dating socialists or Christians or people who don't agree with you, as long as there's something that you admire, respect about her beyond the fact that she's beautiful. So I don't know if that is helpful, but I assume you're having fun with her, suggest that you share some values in some respect, that it's not just about her beauty. All right, let's see. Barbara has a comment on Portugal. I'll just do that just because it's relevant to what we just talked about. Comment on Portugal. I have met many people here who have their own businesses. The Portuguese people I know are in favor of freedom of contract, free markets, individual freedom. I love it here. Yeah, Barbara also lives in Portugal. I know other Americans who've moved to Portugal and enjoyed it. I mean, as long as you don't have to deal with the Portuguese government, it's pretty good. The bureaucracy here is terrible. Everything's slow. It's got a little bit of that Latin America sense. But the country itself is beautiful. Again, the weather's nice. The wine is really good. The food is good. Not as good as Spain, but good. Spain has a pretty high standard. Yeah, I get the sense of people are hardworking and people are ambitious, and they want to be left alone. And they've moved away from electing socialists in Portugal. I don't know that they have a free market political party, but I just met a member of parliament who interviewed me for his podcast. So I'm trying to have an impact on Portuguese politics, and maybe we can make them more principled defenders of freedom and capitalism. Yeah, we can hope. But yeah, it's easier in a small country, I think, than it is in a country like the United States of America, which is so big you have to influence so many people, and where the politicians are so full of themselves. Oli says, just watch Spartacus from 1960. I think it's one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. Yeah, absolutely. It's a magnificent movie. It's a beautiful movie. It's both beautifully filmed. The story is excellent. Kirk Douglas is in it. He's excellent. I forget the name of the actress. Gene Simmons? I forget who plays, who the female lead is. She's amazing. She's beautiful and amazing. It's got a great story, a powerful ending. It's beautifully made. It's Stanley Kubrick at his best. This is what Stanley Kubrick should be remembered for, is Spartacus. So yeah, one of my favorite movies. Really good movie. Lucinda, gonna move to girlfriend in U.S. Wanted to go to U.S. since I was a kid, partially because political reasons, but equal cultural and aesthetic reasons. People always try to change my mind, but I've made my mind up long ago. Good for you. I think the U.S. is still the place to go, with all its problems, with all its challenges. It is still a place to go, and I think you're right. Primarily for the aesthetic and for the cultural reasons, more in spite of the political what's going on politically. And we still have free speech in America, so you can criticize Islam in America. You can criticize pretty much everybody in America, as the Yaron Brook show demonstrates. Yeah, join us in America. Listen, I'm hope that they don't make it too hard for you to move to America, because this administration is making it hard. Also on Portugal, David says, I hear that Portugal is giving citizenship to Jews of European descent. Is this true? No, it's not. So Portugal was giving citizenship to Jews of Sephardic descent. So if you could prove that your ancestors originated in the Iberian Peninsula, not necessarily in Portugal, but in the Iberian Peninsula, it was, until recently, fairly easy to get Portuguese citizenship. Indeed, my wife is now a Portuguese citizen because of that. We just got her passport. and she will sponsor me to get Portuguese citizenship down the road, which will give me an EU passport, which is of great value. But they have stopped that program. That program has ended because too many people fraudulently claimed a heritage in the Iberian Peninsula, and supposedly the rabbi in Porto was getting paid to certify that certain Jews were legitimate, like Abramovich, the oligarch, the Jewish oligarch in Russia, who has no Sephardic connection. He's a complete Ashkenazi, got Portuguese citizenship, and it turned out to be fraudulent. So the government turned against it, and they've done away with the law. So you can no longer get Portuguese citizenship on the basis of being Jewish from Sephardic origin. So my wife and my son just got in just before they suspended it. And they did it out of a sense of guilt for the Inquisition, and because they wanted the income. It cost, I don't know, a couple of $1,000s, and they implemented this after the financial crisis when Portugal was doing really, really badly. And Portugal is no longer doing badly. I mean, the funny thing is that Southern Europe is doing pretty well. Portugal, Spain, Greece are doing really well. The countries that suffered the most during the financial crisis are doing the best right now, and a lot of that is tourism. Tourism is booming in these places. I mean, Portugal, Spain, and Greece, and Italy have all done very, very well from a tourist perspective. Also, all these, what do you call it, digital nomads. They make it very easy, both here and in Greece, to come here and work. You pay a flat, low tax, and you can work from here. So they've encouraged the right things. They've done some reasonable things. Andrew, is measuring sustainability of products by non-human impact a contradiction in terms? Well, yeah, and it's nonsensical. It's an empty concept. It means nothing. And it's usually a lie and made up, so it's usually not even real what they're telling you. So yes, it's an anti-concept. Sustainability is what? The whole point is human sustainability, and humans, to be sustainable, must change their environment, must exploit their environment. The whole point of human survival is the exploitation of the environment. That's what's sustainable. And indeed, the most sustainable political, cultural, economic system in human history is capitalism. Profit is what sustains it. Okay, Clinton, Gen Z here. Cool. I love having Gen Z listeners. I agree. Still, some days I feel overwhelmed by the world. Wars, Trump, corruption, irrationality, simply everywhere. All those days, I really have to remind me to shrug the world and live life. Yeah, and even then, right? Even then. Look, when I turned 20, I was in the Army. You don't have to be in the Army. I mean, the summer of, when was it? The winter of 1980. The winter of 1980. The theme song in my head was a song with the line, "I know I'm going to die this summer," because I was convinced we were going to go to war in Syria, and that I would be part of the cannon fodder on the front line in that war. You know, and I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me at all. I'm just saying, every generation grows up. I mean, think of the World War II generation that went to fight in that war. Think of the Vietnam generation of a pathetic, useless war, and having to go to fight there and being in suspense about whether you won the lottery or didn't win the lottery of names drawn to go and fight in Vietnam. Think about the 70s where violence, well, there was carnage in the streets of America, and it was violent, and political assassinations, and Richard Nixon, and Jimmy Carter, and it's never been great if you focus on those things. Focus on the things you can control. Focus on the things surrounding your life, and focus on the things that are good in the world. And there's a lot of good in the world. And yeah, this is why you listen to your Yaron Brook show, so you don't have to drown yourself in wars, Trump, corruption. Get depressed during my show and get it over with. Get it out of your system and move on. But I appreciate it, Clinton. Thank you. I appreciate the input. Friend Harper says, Gen Z rant is Harper approved. Thank you, Harper, friend Harper. Recommend reading for Gen Z is Hardwiring Happiness by Rick Hansen. It's about neuroplasticity when it comes to overcoming internalized negativity. That's good, absolutely. Anything to overcome the negativity that you grew up with is good. Emil says, thank you, Mr. Brook, for the membership. Good stream. I'm jumping in and out. Information is important. Thank you, Emil. Happy you became a member. Happy to have gifted it. Capitalist Spy says, love your show you're on. You bring totally new perspective in the public debates. Best regards. Thank you, Capitalist Spy. Esoteric Dichotomy. How hard would it be for the U.S. to have a Hong Kong or a special economic zone with much laxer regs or exempt from Social Security or some tax like priests can get? I mean, any state can do that. Well, I guess they couldn't be free. I'm not sure how possible it is. I guess they could do anything, but whether it's constitutional to kind of carve out a portion of the United States and have it function on a different law, I guess the states could do it. Puerto Rico could certainly do it. But the problem is not constitutional or the problem is will and who wants to do it, who desires to do it. The problem is, you know, who has the guts politically to go about doing it, and how does it pass muster in a culture that is so resentful of those people who succeed and do well? PB writes, thank you, PB, $20, appreciate it. A friend retired from Wells Fargo says fake accounts prove big banks always exploit unless government regulates. If you oppose regulation, how do you explain preventing such abuses? Look, nobody says, I certainly don't say, that under capitalism there are no abuses. There are going to be abuses. And the capitalism, companies pay for those abuses, not by getting some little fine from the government, but by people leaving and never doing business with those companies again. Is there any system that can eliminate fraud? I mean, here's the funny part, right? The fake accounts happened under a regulatory regime. All the regulation in the world does not prevent fraud, does not prevent bad behavior. Markets do 1,000 times better job at that and still won't prevent all bad behavior. The reality is, if you look at business fraud in America, almost all of it happens in heavily regulated industries, and very little of it happens in relatively unregulated industries. How often do we get fraud in tech? I mean, once in a while, like the woman who tried to sell those diagnostic tools, I forget her name, but it never got to the point where she defrauded customers. She defrauded, investors, and the fraud was so bad that she went to jail for a long time for it. But how many tech companies have ever gone bust because of fraud or committed fraud? I mean, there have been some. I remember there's a guy shipping bricks in hard drive as if they were hard drives to kind of say that a lot was being shipped out. And I mean, it just doesn't happen. Elizabeth Holmes, thank you. Elizabeth Holmes is the woman I was thinking of. So first, you can't prevent all fraud. There's no system that will change that. Some people are crooks. Some people will do bad things. But regulation doesn't prevent it. Indeed, I would argue, encourages it. Why is Wells Fargo still in business in spite of committing such horrific acts? because they're too big to fail, because the regulators bail them out. Now, why did they do these fake accounts? Because management screwed up incentives. And it wasn't like management said, oh, we're going to defraud our customers. They gave people on the front line, the line facing customers, the incentive, because they were compensated on how many accounts they created. So some account managers created accounts that didn't exist for customers, whether they wanted them or not. Bad management. It wasn't fraud, it was just bad management. How long does bad management survive in a capitalist economy? Not long. What allows companies with bad managers to survive and to grow even? Regulation. Wells Fargo is a great example of that. It had a number of different issues of bad management over the last 10, 15 years, and it still is thriving because it's regulated and it's too big to fail. In the marketplace, they would be crushed if they tried to do that. Rue Downs, Jack Ma bought a 28,100 acre estate in the Adirondack Mountains in New York for wildlife and conservation. Thought it would be a good anecdote to include in your talks. More billionaires doing this. Yeah, I mean, that's the way environmentalism should be done. You want to save the spotted owl? Buy some. Buy the forest that they inhabit and grow as many spotted owls as you want. Nobody should be in a position to stop you. Good for you. But it should be voluntary. People should act on their values. You want to say, but you don't have, you're not a billionaire? Donate to a fund that buys up land to preserve it. I have nothing against that. Lucinda says, as a kid walking to school, it disturbed me that the buildings were so small, except the church towers. Always longed for real skyscrapers and skylines. Yeah, that's great. Just for that, you should visit, and I know it's a tough time to visit there, but you should visit Hong Kong, and you should visit Shanghai. Today, the two most impressive skylines in the world. Hong Kong has more skyscrapers than New York City does, and Shanghai is just magnificent. So while I hate sending you to China, and don't move there, but you should visit for the aesthetic reasons. Not Another Guitar Channel says, I want to rescue a spotted owl and name him Yaron. You should. Name him Yaron Brook. It'll be the only other Yaron Brook on the planet. I don't know. Do I like spotted owls? I guess I like owls. They've got those eyes going for them. They've got those penetrating eyes going for them. I guess I like owls. Lucinda, yes, you have an amazing child to be that observant and see that and have a respect for skyscrapers, and that's amazing. And in the modern world, the place to go to, sadly, I mean, America's inspiring, and New York, Chicago, the skylines are amazing. Even some of the smaller cities, skylines are amazing. But if you really want to be blown away by a skyline, Hong Kong and Shanghai. Andrew has the last question, at least unless somebody asks while I'm reading it. Any thoughts on why Trump or anyone would view human relations as zero-sum? The Jordan Peterson lobster hierarchy mentality is prevalent. Incidentally, I think that mentality is the motivation for trolling. Yeah, I think that's right. I have to be one up on you. Because it's perceptual. Because zero-sum is perceptual. I give Apple $1,000, I get an iPhone. The iPhone is worth $1,000. That's the exchange. And if you add a certain malevolence to that, there are winners and losers. One side wins, one side loses. But the idea that it's zero-sum is just the fact that people have not elevated themselves above perception to a conceptual level. To understand value creation, to understand win-win is an achievement. It took economics, it took thinkers a long, long time to understand this relatively, to us, simple economic principle. And there are a lot of people today who don't have it, who just don't have it, because they're still stuck on the perceptual level. This is one of Ayn Rand's essays that I want to talk about. The missing link is on that. It's the fact that people have not achieved. Conceptual level is an achievement, and have not achieved that. And I think the lobster hierarchy is the same thing. It's, look at the lobsters, they climb on top of each other. Yeah, I can see that in human beings. They do that too. I can see that. I can see it. And to understand what's actually going on, the sense in which it's value additive and win-win, I need to think it. I need to take those sights, and I need to abstract. I need to actually engage in conceptual thinking, and that's what they're not doing. Anomalous. Is there such a thing as too big to fail? Well, there is in the United States, in the sense that there's a whole list of companies, quite an extensive list of companies today, that the United States government has defined as too big to fail and will be bailed out in any crisis. And it's explicit, and that list is only growing, only growing. Is there in reality such a thing as too big to fail? That is there in reality a company that would fail, that would have devastating effects throughout the economy? Only to the extent that we don't have freedom. That is, in a free world, no, there's never such a thing as too big to fail. I'll put it this way, there shouldn't be such a thing as too big to fail. There's never such a thing as systemic risk that is so devastating. But in the world in which we live, yeah, if JP Morgan Chase was shut down tomorrow, there would be big consequences. I mean, a lot of people would lose a lot of money, and there'd be panic in the streets, and there'd be a lot of problems. Is that too big to fail? I don't know. I don't see why. Robert, it's a challenge to discuss the news of the day while reaffirming what a good life, happiness, and success are possible. Today, you've knocked it out of the park. Nice. Thank you, Robert. Once in a while, it all clicks. It all comes together. Faku Kastan, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing your name right. Hi, Dr. Brook. How did Japan become so incredibly entrepreneurial and innovative during the second half of the 20th century without ever embracing American individualism? Thanks for all you do. Keep up the great work. Well, first, the aspects of individualism that did manifest in Japan. The Japanese are ambitious. The culture is a culture of ambition. Japan was industrializing in the late 19th century, early 20th century, and there was a lot of entrepreneurship in that sense, individualism. And if you look at the people who founded Toyota and Honda and Mitsubishi and all these other companies, they were ambitious individuals fighting for their vision and being willing to invest and fight for their vision. And that's an expression of individualism. So there was elements of individualism in Japanese culture, and then I think post-World War, they thrived. Those elements thrived because the collectivism had just been thrashed. And if you go to Japan now, and I think more now than even 20 years ago, you can see individualism in the people, in the streets, in the people you meet. I think that the Constitution of Japan, the fact that there's a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness written into the Constitution, helped move them towards kind of a more individualistic stand. So it's not American-style individualism, and their success was only partial as a consequence, and they kind of hit a brick wall when they failed in the late 80s, early 90s with the bubble burst. But they achieved a lot. They achieved to the extent that they embraced individualism. You don't have to embrace it totally. even partially, will get you a long way. I think the fact that they have a free political system is, in the end of the day, a more individualistic perspective. The fact that they're global companies that sell, manufacture, trade, engage with the rest of the world is they're much more open than they used to be. Trade-wise, there's a lot of individualism in Japan, maybe not full-blown, but a lot of it. And again, to the extent that it was there, to the extent that it is there, to that extent they succeed. John, a win-win exchange is the primary source of value production in the economy. Well, I mean, all value production relies on win-win exchanges, right? You pay your employees, it's a win-win relationship, but you pay your suppliers, and so on. So I don't know. No, I think the primary source of value creation, rather than production, creation in a society is entrepreneurship. It's ideas. It's ideas put into action by an entrepreneur. That's where most of the value is created. That manifests itself in multiple win-win relationships. The values getting into all our hands, going from production to the consumer, and to us as employees, as producers, those are win-win relationships. So in that sense, yes, it's the primary way in which we engage with one another in the free society. It should be the only way we engage with one another. But even in the mixed world we live in today, it's the primary way in which we engage with one another in this world. All right, guys, thank you. We'll call that a show. I appreciate it. I will see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a little later. It will be 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So it'll be a little later. Quite late for me. I'll start the show at 10 p.m. Portugal time. And we'll see what the news brings us tomorrow. I'll try to be positive. I'll try to spin it in a positive way. All right, guys. Have a great rest of the week. Bye.